Right. Evening, everyone. So what you'll see I've done is I've split the slides into two. I have qualitative data analysis, and then I have got quantitative. How's it, Debs? How are you? I've got quantitative. So what we've tried to do is have two separate sets of slides rather than asking people to delete slides. So please just make sure that if you are doing qualitative research, that you have this one open, and if you're doing quantitative research, that you obviously open the other set of slides. Please don't confuse the two. Honestly, if you confuse the two, I will be annoyed because we can't keep repeating the same information. So please, please, please remember that. Right. So, guys, please hold on a fraction. So let's look at qualitative research. So at this stage, there are a couple of things that have to happen. So obviously, the pod leaders have to mark, the ethics clearance meeting has to happen, and then we need to notify you that you can continue with your research. Now, I can't imagine that you will be able to start prior to, goodness me, the aim is to get you guys going on the 25th, because 23rd is not a public holiday, but nothing will happen then. 24th and 25th. So let me see how I can push, but I'm also limited by other people's time and a whole range of other things that have to happen. My suggestion to you at this stage, and I'm aware that you have other modules that are running and that you have to complete other assessments. But if you have a bit of downtime, please do me a favor and just go and relook at your previous submissions. And the one thing that you need to do is get the tense right in terms of your data analysis, your data design, your research design, your research methodology. So anywhere that you've used in your submission, I plan to, I intend to, or we intend to, it's intended, you need to turn that into past tense. So you have to say, we have. So in terms of the research design and the research methodology, that particular section, you need to go and turn that into past tense, because once the final report is submitted, all of that will be written in past tense, and you can use this time to get that done and turned into past tense. The other headache with this is that we are in a real hurry up and wait situation, because sorry, can I just see very quickly what's in the rubric? My apologies for this. Please just excuse me for a second, guys. I just want to see here. Okay, so you need to wait for your feedback from the previous submission in terms of the data collection and turn that into the past tense. And then also please remember to attend to any feedback that came back from that. So the reality is that the only time we can really get to grips with this is when you're actually finished with your interviews or finished with your surveys. So I will take you through the theory of the coding process, and I will definitely give you a suggested layout document as I did with part 1 and 2. So in terms of the qualitative data analysis, so we are going to do something called content analysis. So when we think of content analysis, it really starts with, once you've completed your interviews, is for you to do the transcripts. In terms of the transcripts, I suggest that you use AI ethically, and this is one of the few places that you can use AI. The the suggested AI, or the suggested transcript software is, hold on a second, I just want to steal that from my other group. So there are definitely suggested ones. The, 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 the honest students found the following ones to be the best. So Turbo Scribe, they reckon this is the best. Turbo Scribe. So get used to TurboScribe. I'll explain why you need that. And then the other one that was used, but they think TurboScribe is better, is Good Tape. Oh yeah, absolutely, Justine. Remember, you have to, this we're building to the final document. So we are building to the final document. And so yeah, there's a real need to edit things and make changes and add more info as per the feedback. So please look at TurboScribe or Good Tape. Again, my suggestion is TurboScribe, as per my honors students' suggestion. So in terms of the process, guys, we are looking at a content analysis. So for the quantitative people, I'm going to waste your time very briefly. Are there any quantitative people here doing quantitative research, or are all of you qualitative? Yeah. Let me quickly try and show it rather than lecture it. So quantitative, Rebecca. I'm going to waste your time for a little bit, Rebecca. So if you want to go elsewhere, or if you plan to continue as masters and plan to do it this way, do it qualitatively, then obviously you can stay. So in terms of the process that we follow, the best example that I have is this here. And I know this is going to make no sense whatsoever, but it is this move from codes to categories to themes. So what you have to imagine is, if you look at where the cursor is there, you could imagine that your interview transcripts are there, right? So you have to start by doing your interview transcripts. That is non-negotiable. So, and as I said, the best way to do it is to use TurboScribe. So you can see here, this is an example of an interview transcript. You can see the questions, you can see the answers. One of the things that my students have said is, if you speak to somebody whose English isn't great, TurboScribe struggles a little bit, so you might have to edit, but it's expected. But it saves you hours and hours of typing it out yourself. What we're looking at here are the essence of what coding involves. So your transcripts would sit here. These codes that we have here are brief descriptions of extracts from the interviews. The rule that we generally have is that we move from a lot of codes to fewer categories and then to even fewer themes. So your codes collectively will combine into categories. Your categories collectively will combine into themes. The one thing we do not want to see is a single code, a single category, and a single theme. So you will have multiple codes summarizing into categories. You would have multiple categories summarizing into themes. Now, the only way that you can do this is when you have your transcripts and when you've done your interviews, obviously. Now, we're only doing 3 interviews. Can I just say, if one of your interviews is a dud, and I hate using that word, and my apologies for using that word, but if one of your interviews is less than ideal, then obviously we need to, yeah, we really need to think about getting a third person. Okay. This one isn't the best subject matter, but it also is a wonderful example of what we're looking at. My apologies for the example, but I struggle to find good examples of content analysis. So if we look at what would happen, your interviews would sit over here where my cursor is moving. Those interviews in this instance have summarized into those codes. So as I said, those codes are brief descriptions of what came out of your interviews. You want to keep your codes as simple as possible. You also want to make sure that you don't repeat codes. So out of the combination of bits in terms of your interviews, you would then have your codes. One of the nice things about this example is that the transition from the codes to the categories is very, very good. Because one of the things you will end up doing when you do your interviews and you do your transcripts and you do your coding processes is that from here, from the transcripts into the codes, you will make certain assumptions. From the codes to the categories, you will make other assumptions. What is important is that we can see the logic in your assumptions. So it's almost as if we are leaving breadcrumbs to show our transition from the codes to the categories to the themes. Those breadcrumbs are essential in terms of us understanding your thinking, us understanding your leaps in assumption. This is a pain in the butt process. And the most important thing is to get it done early as possible, is to get your interviews done early as possible. Have a glance at that one. I'm trying to make it a little bit larger without messing it up completely. Right. What you're looking for, and again, I apologize for the subject matter, but the reality is we're adults and I can't find a better example than this. So you can see how these are essentially transition from one to the other. Oh, Justine, yeah. That's why I'm warning and warning. Yes, Jebs, you can't do a thing until you've got your ethical clearance letter from me. Okay, so the ethical clearance letter will come from Ronaldo, and then obviously I have to sign it, and your pod leader will have to sign it. So there's a bit of a process, okay? Can anyone see the logic in terms of this transition? Which one stands out as being very, very good in terms of the logic? I'm assuming it has to do with using contraceptives. Josh, look after yourself. You can see Josh is a typical man. We're talking women's problems, and Josh runs for the hills. No problem, boy. You go. The important bit is to see those, is to see Josh left before he could comment. Um, the important bit is to see the transitions, guys. So, in terms of how we do that, the three things that need to stick in your mind would be initial codes, and from there, your categories, and there, your themes. So, in terms of that, we will look at your qualitative content analysis. So it's about this idea of grouping your data together. And the only way we can do it is if you actually have transcripts. Please don't tell me that you want to code from listening to the interviews, because I will lose my mind. It's impossible to do it properly if you're listening to the interviews. And truthfully, as I've said, this turbo script is really, really very good. Guys, and then just so the idea is this process of fracturing, and I hate using terms like that, but it really is to take your text into those codes. So once you've got to those codes, the next step in the process is to see how those codes logically combine to form your categories. This is a heck of a process. This is not a 20-minute process on a Sunday afternoon after you've had a braai with beer. It really is a bit of sweat. And the truth in my mind is that if it was easy, everyone would do it. So if it were easy, everyone would do it. For me, this is where your research becomes highly personal. The other thing that happens here, guys, in your entire academic career, for the first time, once you've got to your themes, those themes, in your very small way, is actually contributing to scholarship. No, 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 no. I didn't say you have to be sober to do it. Sistankule. I find it best when I have a few beers to lecture. Just to say, guys, you have to spend time on this. But let me just remind you, for the first time in your life, when you've created those themes, you are in your own small little way adding to new knowledge, to new scholarship. And yes, you're not creating a model, and you're not creating a theory, or not creating a new paradigm, but it is important. So TurboScribe will listen to your interviews. So part of your process is to make sure. No, no, you've got to do the coding and categorizing and themes yourself. All that TurboScribe will do, Tiang, you're now really pushing your luck, is that it will only take the interviews, the recorded interviews, and turn them into transcripts. Please don't ask AI to code, categorize, and themes. Justine, it's the research paradigm has very little to do with it at this stage. Um, to be brutally honest with you, what will happen is those themes will either relate back to your theoretical framework, and hopefully it does. But you also will see some of those themes, if you've done your literature review properly, will relate to the literature review. So I'm not worried about the theme, the paradigm. That's unimportant. It's your theoretical framework that I'm concerned about, and your literature review. Okay. Debs, so part of this process is telling us what you're going to do in terms of your recordings. So, when are you going to store it? How are you going to store it? And then where can they be made available? I am not listening to your interviews. okay? But they have to be available to be interrogated. In terms of the transcripts, we don't we don't need to see the transcripts, but if we call for them, you have to have them available. So part of research is telling us what recording device you're using and what you're doing to actually save the recordings. I'm not going to ask for the interviews. I certainly am not listening to them, and I'm not going to ask for the transcripts. Where it may happen is if we are concerned about, yeah, your people using AI, etc. Tian, you had your hand up?
It's fine. So I was going to ask the very same question that Debbie just did, that if we can use Teams transcribe.
Okay. Yeah. So it is important, guys. And remember, this is your research. And for me, that is so important. This is your research, hey? Guys, so I've given a process here. So it starts with your organizing the transcribed data. Now, we generally will organize those into codes. So this is your initial step. So prepare the data, and the one thing that we need to remember, once you've transcribed, I want to see full transcripts. I don't want to see summaries. Okay, you need a full set of responses. Once you've done that, it almost requires you to read through them a number of times because it's your job to get as close as possible to the data that you can. So it really is about looking at the data, understanding the data. I'm also going to suggest now, I don't mind if you do your interviews online and use one of the transcripts. I know that um, Teams does transcripts. I don't know how good they are. So you can even use Teams as a transcript. For those of you that are doing face-to-face interviews, please make sure that you have at least two different recording devices. So initially, please just So initially, it really is about making sure that you understand the transcript. I would also just have a little bit of a notebook that you have available. So when you do the interviews, if you want to make additional notes, you can. My concern is that this might be quite nerve-wracking. The interviews generally are quite nerve-wracking. My suggestion with that is ask your pod leader to maybe ask during a meeting whether you guys can't meet each other afterwards, or if you are good friends with somebody on here, do a mock interview or just mock interview a family member. You have to be comfortable with the questions. You have to know what you're doing in terms of that process. Okay. And obviously, you will have to look at the feedback on your interviews or the data research instrument that we had. Right. So the suggestion here is if you transcribe it yourself, you get to know the data. I think that's a hell of a lot of work. And also, truthfully, you don't have a lot of time. And then I said, look at your impressions, your memos, etc. Right. And then we start with the coding. So generally, when we think of what a code is, it is a single theme to describe a broader issue in the interviews. Try and use codes that make sense in terms of the subject matter, that make sense in terms of the language used within the field that you're writing. So it's important to use the language from the subject matter area that you actually are doing your research in terms of that, you can see here what it talks about. I would try and keep it to those two there. Please don't go beyond that. I think you don't need to do that. No, 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 Sishangule. So remember, part of an interview is that you will run into people that will not give you the full answer you want, but might say something that you want clarification on. Your job is to keep the conversation flowing, but then also, if somebody says something that you're not too clear about, you need to ask for clarification. So it's about practicing that, getting the discussion to flow. If someone says something and you think it is profound, ask them to elaborate on that. So you're not strictly stuck to the questions. Yes, you will need to ask those questions, but sometimes when you have an incredibly resource-rich candidate, what will happen is that person might answer 2 or 3 of the questions you have. Or sometimes it is a bit like, yeah, pulling teeth, and you need to prompt and ask for clarification. My suggestion is interview 3 people initially, but if one of your 3 is a dud, and I apologize for the term, then interview a 4th person. Okay. So look at your codes. The thing for me is read and reread the text. And yeah, always remember your research question in the back of your mind, guys. And then we look at categories. So your categories are your grouped theme, or your grouped codes. My apologies. Right. And what you'll see is you will start building some sort of conceptual framework, some sort of understanding, some sort of summarized understanding of all the interviews and the data from the interviews. Right. You can organize your codes into a hierarchy, but generally you'll see that some codes logically belong together. I would move them around so that when you transition to your category, and I just want to show this again, so that when you transition to your category, you can see they had already organized their codes there. So then that became physical experience. This again became organized together, psychological, and then that would be financial experiences. So I would do it this way: get the codes and then logically combine them together. My suggestion is that you adopt the process that I did when I did my last bit of study. Um, I once I started identifying codes, I wrote them on post-it notes. I wonder if I can find a picture of what I did. I wrote them on post-it notes, and then I logically combined those piles of post-it notes together, and those became my categories. And then you could see from there how it transitions. Hold on a second. Let me just see if I can find my last bit of um, document. Oh gosh, prepare to be amazed, guys. Not really. Hold on a second. My suggestion, though, is use. Oh, I'm now running through this. Hold on. Let me see if I can jump using the table of contents. Just say, guys, your other lecturers would have been more organized, obviously. Hold on. Let me see if it takes me there. Ah, shucks. My apologies, guys. I don't really lecture with things prepared. What pops into my mind is what I lecture. Okay, hold on a second. Okay. Hopefully this, oh gosh, makes sense. But so I didn't really use post-it notes, but I should have used post-it notes. So that was a bit silly. So what I did is what you'll do is when you do your codes, I would write the codes down on post-it notes. Okay. I can't remember if those were post-it notes. It really doesn't matter. So once you've got your codes, you will see the different categories that were here. Okay. So you would then combine those post notes. So if you see their perception of management, for example, or transparency, you can see there's a whole bunch of codes on top of each other there. And my suggestion is that you use the same thing, that you do the same thing. Now, obviously, that is an absolute mess. And for me, that worked. Okay, that worked. Now you could imagine that yours would be well, this is for my PhD, guys, so it's a slight difference. So I don't know if that makes sense. So once you've got your codes, I would write them on post-it notes, but you still have to do this at least as an annexure to include it. But initially, to categorize those codes and logically combine them together, I would use the post-it note idea. I don't know if that makes any sense or I'm really reaching now. You're doing three people. Okay, I will try I will try to, goodness me. Yeah, I will try and get this moved, guys. I am not promising. I think they're going to have the absolute heebie-jeebies with me asking, but I ask the dean, so I don't talk to anyone less than that. Let me see what I can do. Okay. Anyone else? Any comments on the picture that I've just shown? Oh dear. You know, when you sit in class and you think, oh, people are going to fail. Yeah. Sishangule. You need to report me immediately. Okay, guys, from there. Oh yeah, makes sense. Yeah, it's better if you look at it upside down, Joanne, guys, and then your categories, and then from there, your themes. Okay, guys, in terms of these categories, just remember to give them nice labels that logically describe. Oh my word, how the heck are you lost, Kateko? I'm showing you beautiful pictures. Okay. And then obviously from there, oh my word, where I'm losing my marbles here, guys. You will then combine your themes. So to show you that, you can see here, and again, code, and then a combination of those codes into they have subcategories, but it doesn't really matter. Code, sorry, into that category. Code into that category and the cyberbullying. All I'm suggesting with the post-it notes is that these codes that come out of your interviews, you would then stick them or write them on post-it notes so that you can logically get to your categories. How are you lost, Kateko? Your lecturer is working his butt off here, trying to sound intelligent. Okay. Now, this is all fancy, guys, but the truth is you end up with your themes. Okay, I would use the process that I've described there, guys. From there, we get to our themes. Okay, so your codes combine to become categories, your categories combine to become themes. Maybe you guys must ask for a different lecturer, because I really have got nothing else in in the tank. Okay, guys, and then once we've done that, we start linking things back to your so once you have your themes, okay, let me show here. It's so early to be doing this, and that's my concern. And truthfully, I'm being very honest, because this really makes a lot more sense when you are sitting with your interviews and you can start. I am being so premature here, guys, that it is not ideal. It is so far from ideal. But I will try and, yeah. You guys don't give me a lot of faith in myself. I'm busy crying on the inside. But once you've done that, you'll end up with this, guys. Um, so you all have got Ariel's document. Can I just check? Everyone has that? Ariel's document. Yeah, nice, Joanne. Well done. Right. So this is a wonderful example of, oh, Tiang, how have you not got it, woman? Okay. Can somebody just stick it on the group again? Tiang, are you on the group? Tiang, are you on the group? Sorry, can I just find here? So, okay. Who's Jan, please shove it on the group again, please. Okay. So you'll see in terms of the presentation of findings, you'll see that it starts with explaining who the participants were, right? And then from there, looking at the kind of comments that were made. Okay. And then she essentially said what the next code is. And then, so her first theme, why perceptions of young adults towards mobile wallets. So you'll see here she describes the theme. She then acknowledges what her participants had to say. Okay, and she gets to theme two, the same thing, acknowledges what the participants have to say, description of the theme, acknowledging how people contributed to that theme. So your first bit is that. And then, hold on, am I jumping too far now? Then she interprets the findings within the context of the literature review, and she then looks at her theoretical framework and links her themes and her findings to that. Sorry, she first did the theories, and then in terms of her literature. And sometimes you might have to add a bit of literature. And then she tells us whether our research questions and objectives were addressed. You have a lot to do. Can I just say, Ariel is incredibly meticulous. So she took a long time. Thanks so much, Justine. You're a superstar. 25% extra on the next submission. She took a lot of time to get to that point. And then, guys, yeah. So if we look then, okay, before I carry on, who is panic struck right now? Who is completely panic struck? Okay, well, I've done my job then. Oh gosh, ongeziwe, Kateko. Yeah, building skyscrapers using matchsticks. Oh gosh, I'm so happy that I've panicked you. It is the time frame. I will ask now to move it, guys. It is, yeah, it is unrealistic because the final document doesn't take that much to put together. It really is a consolidation of your other. No, it's not insurmountable, guys. My students have done it over the last number of years. So no, it's not insurmountable whatsoever. Okay, but it is, you are pushed, and I realize that there are other assignments due. So to try and explain what a code is, so you can see there a word or a short phrase that creates an impression of what we are referring to in terms of your transcripts. But you can see here summative salience, essence capturing. I've tried to give so many terms just to show you that it is a brief description that captures a lot of information in terms of the interview transcripts. So I don't like this bit, but you can see here how this interview transcript here, they saw that as security. Now, I don't know the context of the research. I wouldn't even want to suggest that's right or wrong. I'm accepting it, it's right, because that is the person's opinion. Okay, I'm accepting that it's right. So you'll see that the more you spend time with your interviews, the better those codes will look and the easier they'll become. But you have to have your interviews to do that. And as I said previously, please do not think that you are going to be able to, yeah, please don't think that you're going to be able to listen to the recordings and then do the coding there. It doesn't work that way. And I'm not allowing that. So in terms of this, he cares about me. He's always been there for me. I feel comfortable. They have that as their codes. Again, I will not comment on that. Do those make sense, guys? That one makes sense to me. It really does. Okay, that one makes sense to me as well. Okay, you can see that this person took one word from there and stuck it as the code. And then, yeah, I think it really is just logically now bringing those codes together. I quite like this one. So what they've done is they have code, 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 and then they have that as a category, code, 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 that as a category. Don't worry about the term subcategory. Category is fine in terms of our process. And then we move those to themes, guys. And those themes essentially are a consolidation of your categories. I feel so bad. I really do, guys. I really, really feel bad. And if you believe that, you'll believe anything. Okay. Any questions, any comments? Here is your time. Also, I see they've asked for a mid-term review of me, so you can nail me this time. Any is horrible. And he doesn't teach us, he just laughs at us. And he's a bully. Any questions, comments, guys? I know this is soon and I know this is hard. Fantastic, Anastasia. Plus 20. 25% plus 25. I'm bribing my students for good evaluations. I love that, guys. I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. And remember, Tiang, so we had the marking call on Friday. I've asked the guys to push because I'm trying to get the ethical clearance as soon as possible. So we're not waiting for the results. You will get your results and then we'll do the ethical clearance. So I'm hoping beyond hope, and it's a little bit unfair that by Wednesday or Thursday you'll have your results, because I am doing the yeah, we're doing the next stage, the ethical clearance, on Friday. Okay, so we're pushing ourselves a little bit as well. So Thursday latest, I hope, yeah. They obviously have more time, but we've pushed, and we'll keep pushing, and I'll keep reminding as well. Okay, guys, I'm going to stop the